All right, yogis, today we're going to talk about your Hanumanasana or your front splits. All right, so just make sure you have 2 blocks with you. It'll be really handy in our practice, in our tutorial today. Okay, so I'm going to come to kneeling so that I can sort of explain the parts of the body that are involved here. So we have front body, we have back body in your Hanumanasana. All right, front body involves the hip flexors, which are these parts here. Back body involves hamstrings down the back of your legs. All right, so we typically start with the 𝙎𝙬𝘽𝙎𝘾𝙍𝙬𝘽𝙀, so step 1 foot forward until I have my right foot forward, my left leg back. And of course, at any time you need to pad your back knee, you can always fold your mat. You can have a nice thick cushy towel underneath or just anything to support you here. Now from here, 𝙎𝙬𝘽𝙎𝘾 will bring your hands up onto your knee and you're going to come upright. Okay, so 𝙎𝙬𝘽𝙎𝘾 targets the hip flexor, which is the front body. That's half of the equation for your Hanumanasana. So in your Hanumanasana, when we talk about hip flexors, it's not just about the length of the hip flexor. So if you're extending forward in your 𝙎𝙬𝘽𝙎𝘾, you're going to feel pretty passive in this position. But instead of that, I want you to think of pulling back, pulling up. So you can feel almost the strength activating here instead of just dumping forward and just getting that passive stretch. Okay, so 𝙎𝙬𝘽𝙎𝘾 goes into your hip flexors. Now from here, we normally go into your half Hanuman, which is your half splits. Okay, so I'm going to introduce blocks here. Feel free to also grab yours. And I'll take mine to level 2. You can always have them higher. You can take them lower, or you can also do without blocks. Okay, so in your half Hanuman, we have the front toes lifting up towards the face, spreading out the toes, digging the heel firm into your mat. And you think of the hip bone pressing back. So the right hip bone is moving back as the left hip bone tracks a little forward. So you'll feel that a little bit more here. Then I want you to think of chest lifting up rather than rounding the back, just to bring the forehead down. So the goal here is not to come down into a deep fold. There's actually no goal, okay? It's just a journey here. But I want you to feel as though you're drawing the right hip back in space, left hip moving forward, and you want your chest to come forward. So that's why we're using blocks here. It will help us to maybe lift a little more into the upper body. Okay, so you're pressing down into that front heel, lifting the toes to your face, spreading them out, everything active. This is your half Hanuman. Now, once we tick-tock back and forth from here into here, a couple rounds, of course, you can do active rounds, you can do passive rounds. So passive rounds, perhaps you're here, just getting into the hip flexor. Then in your half Hanuman, just for maybe a couple rounds, you're here, just to kind of relax the rest of the body and getting into that passive stretch for the hamstring. Okay, so a couple rounds of active. This is your active Anjana, active half Hanuman. Then you have your passive Anjana. You have your passive half Hanuman. Once you've done a couple rounds of this, the body feels a little more warm. Feel free to lift and we'll start in a half Hanuman shape. Bend the knee as much as you need to here, as always, and begin to scoot the right heel towards the front. So you might find a point where there's a lot of resistance and you're going to stop. You're still keeping the right heel pressing down, toes to the face, so that doesn't change. Now from here, once you're here, I typically will move the blocks a little bit more forward so that I can start to work on the back, okay, the back leg. I'm going to curl my left toes behind me, lift through the knee just a little, and then scoot the foot back. Again, I'll find resistance. I will lower the knee down onto the mat again, pad it up if you need to. Now, this could be my Hanuman today, okay? So now that I've brought my blocks forward, I'll feel like my body is moving forward as well. So I don't want this to happen. I'm going to walk my blocks back, kind of having the body upright, shoulders, wrist almost in that same line. Okay, now key thing here is that we are pressing down into your hands, so the blocks are really getting pressed down into the mat. Instead of just doing that, can you soften the front knee? Pull the right hip back, left hip forward, same thing like you did in your half Hanuman. Okay, so you want to feel like you're not opening out to one side and perhaps getting into compression for one side of the lower back, but you are trying to square everything towards the front of your mat. So the right hip point draws back, left hip point draws forward. So there's constant movement through the hips. So if you are here, but you're here, so you're kind of facing off towards the left side, way to have your hands either on blocks or onto the mat. Press down, lift through the hips, and then you're going to drag right hip back, left hip forward. So consistently work towards that so that everything stays facing towards the front rather than dipping off to the side like this. Over time, this may not feel good in your lower back, okay? So have that awareness. You're constantly also flexing to the right foot so that it stays active. Back toes, you can curl like I am doing right now, or you can release the toes down, up to you. But you are here to support yourself, so fingertips can always stay down. Try your best to keep the spine upright, or prop it up onto blocks or just anything that you have at home. Okay, so consistently draw the hip points back for the right side, left hip point moving forward. That will be your active Hanuman. Then of course from there, variations. Once you're comfortable and the body is kind of squared down, you can fold. You can take any other variations that will work for you. Thank you so much. Happy practicing.